Welcome to It's a Woman's World, a show which discusses any and all topics under the sun from a woman's point of view. Hosted by Ali Naithani and co-hosted by Uma Janga and Dr. Susan Strauss. Here's Ali.
Welcome to the show. Uma, I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Oh, thank you, Ali. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful. You know, Uma, I am so happy that we are finally in our beautiful Minnesota months of
true.
summer.
Yep.
It's been a long winter, and
Yes.
just excited to get outside and
Go for walks?
yes, that's what you and I do, right?
Yep.
So some of our viewers may not know that we are neighbors, and
Yes.
one of the things we like to do is go walking.
Yeah,
so
we love that. We enjoy that, right?
We do. It's our
A nice
season.
A nice hot cup of coffee.
And
after
we get a
that.
good cup of coffee. We sure do. Well, let's get started with our show. I'd like to introduce Libby Donahue. Welcome to the show, Libby.
Yep, welcome.
Hi, thank you, Ellie and Uma. I'm glad to be here.
We are so happy to have you here with us, and we're going to talk to you about your work as a writer. And also, we are happy and so pleased to have you. You are going to be a crew on our show here at It's a Woman's World.
That's nice.
And
Yes.
I'd also like to mention we also have another crew member by the name of Faith Zwemke, and she's also joined us. So I'd like to say a welcome to you and a welcome to Faith. So,
Yeah, welcome
Faith
to
is
this
great.
family.
That's right. Welcome to the family.
Family.
That's a good way to describe it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Libby, what inspired you to become a writer? I came to know that you wrote a lot of,
Different kinds of content.
Yes.
Well, I remember I've always enjoyed writing and done all kinds of writing. It probably stemmed from loving to read. The first photograph of me as a little young kid, I have books spread out all over, sprawled on the living room. And so I think my fascination with stories and writing grew from that. I remember being young and writing plays, and since I'm the oldest of a family of 6 kids, I had the authority to make my siblings put on the plays, and we perform them for the neighbors in the backyard. Lots of sword fights and action. And then some of the different types of writing I've done: journalism, so reporting, editing, the creative writing, some poetry, which I haven't published,
Oh.
and then the technical writing.
Oh, that's good. I heard that you wrote for Anthony Park Community Council too. Can you?
Yes,
talk to
St.
us about
Anthony
that?
Park Community Council is one of the district councils in St. Paul, District 12. And so I just finished about a 4-month gig with them. They advertised for an intern to do some communications and writing, and I'm wanting to move career-wise, still focus some on technical writing, but also explore the more creative work with nonprofits. And so I convinced Amy Sparks, the executive director of St. Anthony Park Community Council, to go ahead and give me a shot. I really, really enjoyed working with her and doing writing. So I did some pieces about their board members and then just different resources in the area. Helped kick off a website for the Creative Enterprise Zone, which focuses on the mix of creative businesses, industrial businesses, people that are really, really involved in that area of St. Paul.
Okay. And so out of the areas that you've mentioned, you talked about technical writing
Yes.
and writing for the community. Is there a particular area that you like one over the other, or that you prefer?
I enjoy them both for different reasons. Technical writing, I really like the challenge of taking pretty hard-based, factual, somewhat dry information and being able to explain it to a variety of audiences in a way that is both correct but still easy for people who are reading the information to be able to understand. With technical writing, your audience varies a lot. You have people who know very, very knowledgeable about the information, and then you have people that may be just picking up a learning guide for the
Sure.
first time. So you need to be able to write sort of in the middle of the audience, but still engage everyone.
Yeah, with that same question in mind, I came to know that you also work as a sound engineer in KFAI radio too. So you work as a journalist too. So which one do you enjoy the most?
Well, I'm not going to say for sure which one I enjoy the most since I take gigs across the spectrum.
Okay.
What I love about KFAI Community Radio is similar to SPNN. It's access-based, community-based, so there are only a few paid staff people. It's a volunteer-run radio station. My involvement with it has been doing the audio engineering, as you say, so I'm a very much behind the scenes strategist, tactician. That tends to be my personality. So I really like running the board and the equipment and the controls. I'll jump in sometimes, and I've subbed for a few programmers, and that's always fun. It's a little bit more pressure because you're doing it live and you gotta deal with the equipment. Whatever happens technically. I also enjoy writing some content for KFAI. When I first moved to the Twin Cities in the early 90s, and before there was a lot of online, I wrote pieces for KFAI's print newsletter.
Okay.
Oh,
Very interesting. Well, since you said you like to be behind the scenes, well, I just want to point out and thank you for being in front of the camera with us today.
Yes,
we
definitely.
do appreciate that. Yeah.
Definitely we do.
So
appreciate
as you're talking, you spoke about the volunteer spirit at KFAI and certainly some of the work you've done with writing, but it seems like that really inspires you to be part of these communities that are volunteer-based, or as I could say, the good work that's being done in our communities. So tell us why does that inspire you? I can see you light up when you smile.
I think it comes from some of my parents' values.
Sure.
My dad, a lot of integrity, a lot of speaking out for people. He's a quiet person, not real outgoing, but just always being there to help out a neighbor. Also, part of it is I grew up in Montana, and that's because there aren't a lot of people in a lot of huge urban areas in Montana, and it still has some of that pioneer spirit. You look out for a neighbor, whatever your opinion is, whatever differences you may have with a neighbor. They need you, you're in there. So some of it comes from that youth. I also really believe that it's important to be involved with other people, to be involved with communities, Ali and Uma, to sort of even out some of the problems that occur in the world and that occur in society. And I just like a little bit of that rebel air that comes.
And we came to know that you have been nominated for Page One Award too, which is a honorable award when it comes to journalism, right? So how do you feel about that?
I was very pleased. I didn't expect it. It's from the Minnesota chapter for the Society of Professional Journalists, and it's for a piece that I did for KFAI Community Radio in 2012. The award itself is 2013. Soon after I moved back to St. Paul from having been in Missouri for a while, I heard sirens going at night and all sorts of activity, and being a former reporter, I just had a cheap little, maybe $30 at the most recorder, and headed over to Walker Community Church, which had caught on fire. So caught fire Sunday night. It was in my neighborhood. So very early Monday morning, I went over there and just started talking with neighbors who were in the area. It's such a strong church with a long history of community involvement. So people were just all crowded around, and I just started doing person on the street interviews, taking snapshots of the remains of the church and some of the people. And then that was Memorial Day when all of the people were coming around and the crews were demolishing the ruins of Walker Church so that it wouldn't fall down and be a danger. And then I brought the audio in to KFAI the next morning, being the holiday on Monday, they were closed. And Dale Conley, the news director at KFAI, helped me download the audio, and we put together a 4-minute, 21-second feature, and they aired it on KFAI. And they also, Walker Church twice a month has, they block off the street in their area, and all the neighbors and members have a picnic, and they just discuss different things. And they decided to go ahead and have their picnic that night because it had already been scheduled. So
Wow.
I went and talked to people there too.
So on the day of the fire,
day
the
of the
community
fire. Oh
carried
my.
on, and that's what you captured in the piece
That's
that you
yes.
created.
That's. Do you know the reason for the fire? I mean,
They believe the church was struck by lightning.
Oh goodness.
oh my.
So
So, well, we, as you, in the next couple of weeks, you'll be accepting the award for that. We
Correct.
congratulate you in advance.
Congratulations.
And
Thank you.
that's a pretty amazing piece of work that you've done. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
It was exciting. And there are other people from KFAI who will also be receiving Page One awards.
okay, great. Well, I wanted to touch on another area that you told us about, and I think something that's very interesting that you're doing is you're building connections with other women as you see other outstanding women in the community.
yeah.
And I think what you had told me is that you're looking to strong-spirited women who are maybe making change in the world or doing some good work. And what I found interesting about this was that you said you were more naturally inclined in your life to connect with men, and now you're feeling like you want to find those connections with women. So tell us about that.
Okay. Yes, Elise. So I've always been somewhat shy and an introvert. For whatever reason, I just have an easier rapport with men. But since moving back again to the Twin Cities, I've really been interested in what women are doing and some of the changes in leadership that women can develop given their passion and their commitment and their curiosity. So just in 2013, I've had a series of women that I've met or re-met whom I've found inspiring and want to start really connecting with. So I'm starting to get to know Mary Lee Hendricks again, who was a longtime friend. She's a technical writer and communications specialist and does some other really interesting things. Through my work with the SAPCC, I've gotten to know Amy Sparks, who's the executive director, and I just really love how Amy is so involved in the neighborhood and the community, and she is not at all a pushy person, but she's
Right.
always in there. This needs to be taken care of. Neighbors are coming to me about this. Here's the big issues. How do we address that? And she just keeps on and on. And
She sounds like a
taking
go-getter
care
who doesn't relent, who goes after the cause. Is
exactly.
Is that
yeah.
it?
Good
Yeah.
way to describe it.
Yeah.
So, getting to know Amy was really a great experience, and we're going to continue that connection. Then I've done, as a volunteer, some written about some of the members at SPNN, and I really loved my interview with Bonnie Watkins.
Yes.
Bonnie Peace
Bonnie
Watkins.
Peace Watkins
Yes.
is a part of our crew, and
Yes.
absolutely.
That's nice. So you have been on radio, so now you're joining the television community too. So what are your thoughts about this?
I think TV is a natural match for me. I'm very visual. Like I love photography. I have a good eye for detail about what's going on around me in the environment. I'm really curious. So radio is great, but TV, it's like, oh, there's that missing dimension that I can really hook into. And I think it's going to tie back to some of my interest with drama and creativity and just.
Well, Libby, our time has come to an end, and so this was just really interesting conversation, and I am so glad that you're with us on the crew here at It's in Women's World, and thank you so much for coming on this side of the camera and sharing your story with us.
Thank you very much.
We'd love to have you come on again, but most importantly, we're just really looking forward to working with you. So,
Likewise, Ali and
All
Uma,
right.
thank you very much.
all right. We have Bonnie Peace Watkins with us. Hey, Bonnie.
Hi.
And also we have Libby Donahue. Welcome, Libby.
Hi.
And Libby and Bonnie, of course, are part of our fantastic crew here at It's a Women's World. And today we're all together because we are going to talk about a very interesting subject. And that subject is technology and communication. And what do we think about it? And how do we feel about how technology, over the past, 10 to 15 years with Facebook, with email, Google, all this Twittering, how it's all come upon us all together and how we interact with it in our daily lives. So, where do we start with this big topic?
Well, it really has happened fast.
Yes.
I'm glad you touched on that because there's huge changes have occurred in my lifetime. I'm 63, but few, really it was not too many years ago that I wasn't emailing every single day and checking Facebook every 5 minutes. And, so it's changed a lot. And I think you have to say that if used wisely, it really has improved the quality of life for lots and lots of people. So how's that for starting?
I think that's a great start.
Yep, definitely.
What do you think, Libby?
I have mixed opinions about all the online and social media. So I see definitely there's a lot of good and a lot of strength as far as sharing information and having greater means of communication, faster communication. I have some deep reservations about the ways that affects privacy and kind of ups people's needs for instant interaction. And I also have concerns about digital divide and people getting left behind, not being able to participate even in job searches. So definitely a great topic for discussion.
Right.
I don't know about that, but texting nowadays has helped me a lot, to approach people. Because when they are in meetings or, we cannot talk to them, right? We cannot call them. We can just text them. For example, for my daughter, I can just call, text her anytime, but I can't call her every time, right? So it really made a difference, to approach people. I think.
Speaking of Women's World, as a parent, that really was how I got into a lot of these things, is that we got, when my kids were early teens, we got cell phones for everybody, and the ability for them to tell us where they were and when they needed a ride was a huge safety feature. Not to mention being caught in a Minnesota snowstorm in a car somewhere.
Exactly.
So it really started as a kind of way, only for emergencies in the background kind of thing. But then, there's been this wave of people mad at people talking on their cell phones while driving.
Yes.
But I've always just thought, and before texting while driving became a huge deal. But I really thought, as a mom, it's more important to me to know where my kids are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I totally
Having that ability to communicate, even while driving once in a while, is a huge, huge advantage.
Yeah.
And kids respond to your text better than anything else, I
Yeah?
believe.
Than
Because
calls?
if you text, immediately you'll get the response, but not with other stuff.
Yeah, they seem to like text, but I think that's
Yes.
You can ignore almost every form of communication. I've discovered.
I don't know
unfortunately
about you
true.
guys,
Yeah,
but
no,
with
I
my
can-
daughter, if I text her, I'll get reply back immediately.
Yeah.
But with other form of communication,
Right.
it takes time.
She might ignore you. She might
Yes.
let it sit.
Yeah. Well, one thing I realized one day I was in the grocery store and I was needing to shop for something and I needed to figure out what it was.
Yes.
And so
Oh.
this point really hit me. And I thought, well, I'm just going to call mom and ask her. And I thought, well, I did that, but I think what this wonderful technology, it gives us the instant access, as you said, Libby, but I also think it's inhibiting some of the problem solving. Like, had I not had that phone, right, I would have just figured it out. But instead, I think because we have like our cell phone where we can instantly call somebody and say, tell me this or tell me that, I eliminated for myself that critical thinking or just solution solving. And so that for me was an interesting hit when I realized that, like, oh my goodness, it's not always that beneficial.
But it saved your time though, instead of going back and forth again to your home and coming back.
Absolutely.
So both pros and cons.
There's definitely pros and cons.
Well, and I remember when I first started learning about Twitter, the fact that it's limited to 140 characters, part of me went, yes, finally my attention span fits with I really only want to hear 140 characters worth of information from anybody else. But it's a great way to scan. I post things for a group called US Women Connect, and it's great. In the morning, I can spend about 20 minutes scanning through the tweets of all the groups that I follow and get a good sense of what are the trends for today without reading a huge, long PhD thesis.
Okay.
And then many of them do send you to a website where if I do want more information, I can go get it. But really, just having a little bit of information sometimes is a good thing.
And that's all you need sometimes, right?
But then, you do wonder about where do those deeper conversations happen, you know? How do you, with communicating with your kids, I really would like more than 140 characters sometimes. So.
Right.
It's like a precise filtering for just the gist of the information. That reminded me when I first started seeing about Twitter, people that are great at writing headlines, conveying the meaning of a news story in a short amount of characters.
The other one I think is interesting is of course, Facebook. And do you all use Facebook?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Facebook is so famous now.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's that instant, though, wanting to check it. Because what the fun about it is, like, you get to see so-and-so's kids or the pictures or the updates.
Or somebody responded to you.
Somebody responded to you, yeah.
Somebody knows, like your friend.
Yes.
Somebody knows I'm out of here.
Yes.
Particularly when you attend your friend's birthday party or something, they must have taken nice pictures, so you want to see how it looks, and you immediately,
Yeah, the visuals. That's why I think Facebook is better than Twitter.
Yes.
And there's also, with Facebook, you were talking before about like the safety, knowing people that are okay. So I've seen in different emergency situations or disasters where people will communicate, I'm fine, we're okay.
That's a good point.
Yeah, the Boston bombing, where people who
were
participating in the marathon, who right then and there on their smartphones said, don't worry, I'm okay.
That's a great point. And another interesting one I heard with Facebook is don't necessarily tell your Facebook community that you're going to Hawaii because and do you know why?
The safety piece.
The
They'll go rob your house.
That's exactly what was happening. That the thieves were getting into people's Facebook accounts and figuring out who's gone to Hawaii, who's on a trip, and then they go and have a field day at their house.
Oh, so many people even write, I just ate ice cream.
My cat.
My goodness.
Well, but the feature of, some people would say just don't be friends with anybody who's going to rob your house.
True. Yeah.
But I think the privacy piece is so interesting. And on the one hand, all this technology gives people a voice who never had a voice before.
Yes.
So it's wonderful, the democracy of it.
Yeah.
But there is sort of a creeping capitalism, if I can use that expression, that there are more and more ads appearing on Facebook and everywhere else.
That's very true.
That to me really is undermining that. That more and more I'm going to go, if I have to read this many ads, I'm just not going to continue.
That's very true.
And for me, there's the aspect of, I see a diminishing respect, perhaps, for privacy, or a diminishing attitude about people have their own business. So, for example, now all the major news organizations, including the BBC, they have Facebook pages and Twitter accounts. And to me, as a former journalism student, that was a big mark in the changing communications when the BBC went to a Facebook page and people are posting photographs that they take with cell phones, and it doesn't matter what it's about. Like, for example, the commuter that was shoved in front of the train and killed, that whole controversy. And my hackles get going a little bit about, I'm not completely crazy about all of this social media and instantaneous communication, because for me, it's eroding some of the ethics, not necessarily person to person, but just society in general. I think we need to question that and be cognizant of it. And the rebel in me wants to say, well, I'm not gonna dive completely into this. I have my reservations.
Is it also, as a journalist, the integrity of that information?
Yes.
Is that what fundamentally?
That's one of the basic issues.
Yeah, so it's just wrong information out there.
Yeah.
The other thing, though, that I've noticed a lot is the, every bigoted, horrible person in the world feels free. So I think I wrote an op-ed for the Star Tribune one time, and somebody said, don't even read the comments. The people who comment on things just say horrible, horrible things.
Okay.
And I've seen that on Twitter a few times, too. If you say something about gun control, for
Yeah,
instance, that
yeah.
the people who are really, anti all forms of gun control will get, personal, creepy, threatening,
Right.
scary stuff.
Yeah.
So, again, I think you just have to not follow those or unfriend those or,
Yeah.
take control of your online life to avoid that sort of stuff.
That's an interesting point, because where do you draw the line with what people will come back and say is free speech? Where do you draw the line with that?
Yeah,
That's been
good
a question
point.
of
Yeah.
mine. Like, it's good to get good conversation and tough topics talked about, but when it gets into difficult stuff like that, and if somebody has an opinion and feeling, I mean, Libby, what do you think about that as a journalist? Where do you draw some of those lines?
Like, as far as tapping responses and reactions, generally people tend to be more vocal in any media often if they have something negative or a criticism or a complaint than they do if they agree with your viewpoint or share a similar viewpoint. So that, I think, will remain the same across platforms.
But there are controls people can use, too.
Right.
So you don't have to be friends with everybody. I
That's
just set up a Facebook page for my brother and said, number one rule, do not be friends with everybody who wants to be
right,
friends
right.
with you.
Right, who
Check your
requests.
privacy settings.
Yeah.
And then blogs, we haven't talked about blogs very
Exactly.
much, but you
Yeah,
can
check
moderate
the blogs.
comments.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I learned very quickly at the Minnesota Women's Consortium, do not let anybody post stuff on the page before you review it, because again, there's people who will say
yeah,
really,
oh my, I have
criminal
yes,
things.
Right.
Yes,
But you can easily short circuit that by just either block that comment or block that person forever in extreme
Okay.
cases. So,
Okay.
but I think again, people shouldn't just passively
Right.
accept whatever's out there, but look for what controls you do have
Right.
and use them.
Yeah, I have
Exactly.
seen blogs too having so many cruel comments.
Okay.
I feel so bad.
Yeah,
How
that
come
can
they
be
can
that,
say like that,
right? That cyberbullying that they talk
Yes.
about. That's
Right. Scary.
especially for
So
kids.
scary.
I
No.
think. Yeah.
Even in cooking blogs, they say, you
even
took
with
this
adults.
from some other person's
gosh.
website.
It's not your
like
original.
these kind of comments. How can you,
Yeah.
it's really hurting, It's not.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about cable television as something
No, we
that's,
haven't.
Good point.
I mean, it is technology. We're all kind of used to it, but
Yeah.
there are a lot of people who really don't have cable at all.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
yeah.
again, it's been a real avenue for a lot of people who wouldn't be able to get a message out or share a cultural practice or
Sure.
their recipe.
Yes, yeah.
So again, it's one of those things that, there's people who are affirmatively anti-cable or just anti-paying any money for anything ever. But to me, technology is here to stay. You need to be
Yes.
kind of knowledgeable about what your choices are.
Yeah.
But just hoping it'll all go away isn't going to really work
No,
for
no.
anybody. So.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, this has been a great conversation, but unfortunately our time is up. But I really enjoyed hearing your
Yes.
perspective, so thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your opinions.
fun.
Yeah.
Likewise.